On January 15, 1919, Boston witnessed one of history's strangest disasters when a tank of molasses exploded, creating a sticky tsunami that killed 21 people. This isn't just a quirky footnote in history books, it's a tragedy that transformed American industrial regulations forever. The massive steel tank in Boston's North End industrial area stood 50 feet tall and 90 feet in diameter, holding over 3 million gallons of molasses for the Purity Distilling Company. During World War I, this sweet, thick liquid wasn't just for cookies. It was critical for manufacturing munitions through fermentation into industrial alcohol. The day started unusually warm for January, reaching about 40 degrees Fahrenheit after weeks of freezing temperatures. At approximately 12:30 p.m., residents heard what sounded like machine gun fire as the tank's rivets popped, followed by a thunderous roar. Suddenly, a 25-foot wave of molasses weighing 26 million pounds surged through Commercial Street at 35 miles per hour. Imagine trying to outrun a tsunami that sticks to everything it touches. The wave demolished buildings in its path, crushing structures and twisting the elevated railway's steel supports. People caught in the flood couldn't escape. The more they struggled, the deeper they sank. Some victims were literally glued in place and suffocated. Others were swept away, their bodies found days later, still preserved in the sugary tomb. The molasses wave carried such force that it swept a truck across the street and dumped it into Boston Harbor. Rescue efforts were immediately hampered by the nature of the disaster. First responders waded through waist-deep molasses that continued hardening in the cool afternoon air. Firefighters sprayed seawater to dissolve the molasses and search for survivors, but the sticky substance clung to everything it touched. Rescuers worked for 4 days straight, pulling victims from the hardening mass while struggling not to become stuck themselves. The aftermath was equally extraordinary. Boston Harbor remained brown until summer. Residents claimed they could smell molasses on hot days for decades. Cleanup took weeks, with workers using salt water to wash away the molasses before applying sand to absorb what remained. The city's economy suffered as businesses were destroyed and the North End was effectively shut down. The legal battle that followed was unprecedented. Over 125 lawsuits were filed against the tank's owner, United States Industrial Alcohol Company. The court proceedings lasted 6 years and involved 3,000 witnesses. Initially, the company tried blaming anarchists, claiming the explosion was sabotage, a convenient scapegoat during the first Red Scare. However, the investigation revealed the real culprit: corporate negligence. The tank had never been properly tested for structural integrity. It had been hastily constructed during wartime with substandard materials and inadequate engineering. The company had ignored warning signs like leaks that residents reported. Locals even collected molasses in buckets for home use. Most damning was that the tank had been repeatedly filled beyond capacity to meet wartime demand, creating enormous pressure that the structure couldn't withstand. In 1925, the court found U.S. Industrial Alcohol responsible, awarding $628,000 in damages, equivalent to about $9.2 million today. More importantly, the disaster led to fundamental changes in American law. Massachusetts implemented some of the nation's first building codes, requiring architectural plans and engineering calculations to be approved before construction. The case established modern negligence law principles still cited in courtrooms today. The Boston molasses flood represents a pivotal moment when America began shifting from buyer beware to holding corporations accountable for public safety. Those 21 deaths weren't just tragic, they fundamentally changed how we regulate industry. Today, a small plaque in Boston's North End is the only physical reminder of the disaster, but its legacy lives on in the safety regulations that now protect us all. Sometimes history's strangest stories teach us its most important lessons.